Help! Please! I can't hold on much longer. The voice was high, desperate, nearly swallowed by the roar of flood water tearing through maple and thorn. Ethan Reyes whipped his head towards the sound, and there, 30 yards away, a boy clinging to a half-submerged stop sign, dark hair plastered to his head, small hands locked on the pole like they could fuse there. A surge slammed into him. For one heartbeat, the boy vanished. Then he surfaced, coughing, grief weaker. The current wanted him. The storm wanted him. And the water was still rising. The rain started like a whisper that morning. Now it hammered the city like war drums, turning streets into rivers, cars into drifting shells. Ethan had stepped off engine 19 into ankle-deep water minutes ago. Now, it was climbing past his knees, numbing his legs through heavy turnout pants, helmet dripping, gloves soaked. At 24, still the rookie. He'd shown up to every call ready to prove himself. But this wasn't fire. This was worse. He grabbed his radio. Dispatch, I need dive rescue at Maple and 3rd. We've got a child in the water. Static. Then the answer. All dive teams are committed. ETA 20 minutes minimum. 20 minutes. The boy didn't have 20 seconds. Another wave hit him hard, wrenching his arms from the pole. Their eyes met, wide, terrified, and something inside Ethan broke. A voice from another lifetime cut through the storm. Sometimes, the thing you fear the most is the thing someone else needs you to face. The cold rain blurred his vision, but the memory was sharp. He was 8 again, coughing up chlorinated water on sun-warmed pool tiles, lifeguard's hands pressing against his back. That day, he'd promised himself, never again, never water, never swimming. I'm scared, the boy shouted, his voice cracking. I know, Ethan thought, pulse pounding, so am I. And then, the boy's head went under. Have you ever faced a moment that scared you to your core, but you acted anyway? Share it in the comments. Your story could be the spark that gives someone else the courage they need when their moment comes. Growing up in a cramped apartment with a single mother, he'd imagined chalkboards, gym whistles, and maybe a classroom trophy case with his name on it. Teaching, coaching, those had felt safe, predictable. But life rarely honors childhood blueprints. It takes detours. It tests you in ways you'd never volunteer for. Sometimes, it delivers you exactly where you're needed, long before you're ready to be there. The fear started at 8 years old. It was supposed to be a birthday party. Plastic chairs, pitchers of lemonade, the smell of sunscreen, and grilled hot dogs. Kids stared each other to cannonballs while parents barely looked up from their conversations. Ethan had been standing in the shallow end, feet anchored to the bottom, smiling like he belonged there. Peer pressure is gravity. One boy splashed him, another shouted, Come on, Reyes! And suddenly, he was where his feet couldn't find the floor. The world became soundless, weightless, cruel. They pulled him out eventually, coughing and heaving, chlorinated water burning his lungs. His mother wrapped him in a towel. But something stayed down there at the bottom of that pool. His trust in the water and in himself. From that day forward, Ethan and water maintained a quiet, careful distance. Years later, when he walked into the fire academy, he told himself it didn't matter. Firefighters fought fires, right? How much swimming could there possibly be? In his first week at Station 18, Captain Marla Brooks set the record straight. Water rescue is 40% of our calls in the city, she said, scanning the new recruits. Brooks had 20 years in, silver streaks in her hair, and eyes that saw more than you wanted them to. Hope you're a strong swimmer, Reyes. He smiled and nodded like he always did. Fake it till you make it, or until someone figures out the truth. Brooks figured it out faster than most. She had the way of spotting cracks in a person's armor. She'd watch him volunteer for everything: burning buildings, high-angle rope work, dangerous extractions, everything but the calls that involved water. Interesting pattern, rookie, she'd say, but you never pushed. Good leaders know when to pull and when to wait. Liam Carter, Ethan's best friend and the station's unofficial water rescue specialist, tried to close the gap. I'll teach you the basics, he'd offered more than once. Not Olympic stuff, just enough so you don't freeze out there. But Ethan always found an excuse: gear checks, paperwork, helping in the bay, and eventually Liam stopped asking. But he never stopped watching his back. Fear isn't the enemy. Brooks told the crew one night after a brutal shift. Fear keeps you sharp, but fear that controls you, that's when it starts controlling the people you're supposed to help. Ethan nodded along with everyone else, filling it away like an interesting coat. He didn't know yet it was meant for him. The morning of the flood started like any other spring storm. The Weather Service issued the standard warnings: heavy rain, possible flash flooding. Ethan checked his gear twice, as he always did, running through protocols in his head. By mid-morning, the sky was the color of a wet cement. The first drops tapped on the station's windows, harmless, almost lazy. But storms built in layers. By noon, the city's gutters were overflowing, and by early afternoon, the radio was alive with calls. Cars stranded, intersections swallowed whole. Ethan had no idea his call was coming. No idea that within hours, knee-deep water would become chest-deep. That someone would be clinging to life 30 yards from where he stood. That every unlearned swimming lessons, every deflected offer, every memory of what it all would rush back, not to drown him, but to demand something from him. Because sometimes you don't conquer your demons. Sometimes you meet them in the middle of the street, in the middle of a storm, and realize the dance you've been avoiding your whole life is the only way to reach someone else before the current takes them away. The radio had been screaming for an hour. Houses fires, car accidents, elderly residents trapped in apartments as water climbed past their windows. The storm had turned the city into a living emergency map. Red alerts flashing in every direction. Ethan sat in the passenger seat of Engine 19, watching the wipers fight a losing battle against a sheet of rain. Captain Brooks drove with the steady precision of someone who'd navigated 20 years of disasters. But even she seemed rattled by the scope of what they were facing. Never seen it this bad, she muttered, turning onto Maple Street, or what used to be Maple Street. Now, it looked like a river had decided to claim it. They parked on the highest ground left, surveying the chaos. Cars floated, hazard lights blinking like dying stars. And 2 blocks away, a family of 4 waved frantically from the rooftop. But another crew was already making its way there. "Reyes!" Brooks called over the storm. "You take the east side. Check vehicles and ground floor apartments. Radio if you need backup." He nodded, adjusting his gear. Rope, flashlight, first aid kit, standard rescues, standard tools. None of it was built for what this street had become. He'd gone 50 yards when it happened. "Help, please, somebody help me." The voice was high, desperate, nearly swallowed by the roar of rushing water. Ethan's head snapped towards the sound. A boy, 8, maybe 9, clung to a half-submerged stop sign. His small frame bent almost horizontal from the pull of the current. The water wanted him, and it was winning. Ethan froze. For a heartbeat, the world folded in on itself. Chlorine in his lungs, tile against his cheek, 8 years old, drowning in the shallow end of a birthday party pool. "I can't hold on much longer." The boy's thin fingers slipped on the wet metal. Ethan's hands shook as he grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, I need immediate water rescue at Maple and 3rd. Child in the water, approximately 8 years old." The reply came fast, and it was the worst thing they could have said. "All dive teams are committed. Nearest available unit is 20 minutes out." 20 minutes. The boy's head vanished under search. In 3 seconds, 4. He came up, coughing, weaker now. Ethan scanned the streets. No civilians, no backup. His rescue rope sat in the truck, but there was no one to anchor it. Liam, the station's best swimmer, and Ethan's safety net for water calls, was across town. It hit him like a gut punch. He was the only one there, and helping meant going into the water. His chest tightened. The current hissed like a living thing. "I can't," he whispered. But then, "Please, I'm scared." The words cut through him. He saw his own fear mirrored in the boy's eyes. The wide, hopeless look of someone realizing no one is coming. Except this time, someone was. Brooke's voice crackled through his radio. "Reyes, status report." He could tell her the truth, admit he couldn't do it, but when he opened his mouth, he heard himself say, "Child trapped in flood water, I'm going in. Wait for backup, Reyes, that water's moving fast." He looked at the boy again. His grip was nearly gone. "Negative, Captain, can't wait." Ethan stepped into the flood. The water surged cold around his knees, then his thighs, shoving hard enough to make every muscle strain just to stay upright. His breath came shallow. Every cell in his body screamed to stop, turn back. But then another wave slammed into the boy, almost steering him from the pole. And in that instant, Ethan understood. Courage isn't when the fear is gone. It is when the fear stays and you move anyway. Hey kid!" Ethan shouted over the roar of rushing water, forcing his voice to sound steadier than the panic clawing at his throat. "What's your name?" 30 yards away, clinging to a half-submerged stop sign. The boy's head jerked up. Rain streamed from his hair into his wide, terrified eyes. "Tommy!" His voice cracked, half shout, half plea, almost swallowed by the storm. "Tommy, I'm Ethan," he called back, tasting grit in the rain. "I'm a firefighter, and I'm going to get you out there, okay? But I need you to keep talking to me, can you do that?" Tommy nodded frantically, his knuckles bone white against the metal post. "I can't swim," he cried. "I never learned how to swim." The words hit Ethan like an electric shock. "I can't swim either." The thought was instant, uninvited, a gut punch that collapsed the distance between them. Suddenly, this wasn't just a rescue. It was a mirror. 16 years peeled away, and he was 8 again, gulping chlorinated water, lungs burning, terrified that no one would reach him in time. "That's okay," Ethan shouted, the calm in his voice surprising even him. "You don't need to know how to swim. You just need to hold on a little longer while I figure out how to get to you." He scanned the street. What was left of it? The water was a living, hungry thing, racing past with the sound like tearing fabric. Throwing a rope from this distance was impossible, especially with the wind twisting every movement. Then there, a chunk of wooden fence bobbing a few feet away, heavy enough to support some weight. His radio crackled. Captain Brooks' voice. Reyes, I've got units headed your way, but they're stuck in traffic. If you're the closest responder, you're it. You're it. The words dropped like lead into his chest. No one else. No backup. No miracle team sprinting in the last second. Tommy, I'm coming toward you, Ethan yelled. But I need you to keep talking. Tell me about yourself. Do you have any brothers or sisters? A little sister. The boy's voice trembled with cold, but it was still there. Emma, she's 5. What does Emma like to do? Ethan asked, reaching for the floating debris. It was slick but solid, something he could wedge under his arms to fight the current. She likes coloring books and our dog, Buster. Ethan looped his rescue rope around his waist, tying the other end to a sturdy light bulb. If the current takes me, at least the rope might give me a chance. The knot bit into his gloves. What kind of dog is Buster? Ethan asked, stepping into the icy water. It gripped his thighs instantly, shoving against him with invisible hands. Golden Retriever. Tommy's voice cracked again. Not many tricks, but big on cuddles. Despite the freezing water, Ethan laughed. Not many tricks, but all the love. That's the best kind of dog. He pushed deeper, using the wooden debris as a makeshift float. 25 yards. The current was stronger now, tugging with a constant, greedy pull. The smell of diesel drifted from a half-submerged car, mixing with a metallic tinge of flood water. Somewhere behind him, a branch cracked and went spinning past. The wind lashed rain sideways into his eyes. 20 yards, 15. The water rose to his chest, his boots scraping for purchase on an uneven, unseen street. Then, his right foot caught on something. A curb? A slab of concrete. He slipped, and in a flash, the water swallowed him whole. Sound vanished. The world became a brown blur and cold pressure. His chest seized as his lungs screamed for air. Every nightmare he'd ever had about drowning surged back at once. Not now. Not here. The rope snapped taut against his weight, yanking him into a halt. He kicked, fighting the weight of his gear, the drag of the current, the urge to panic. His head broke the surface with a gasp. Ethan! Tommy screamed, high and desperate. Don't leave me, please don't leave me. I'm not going anywhere, he gasped, blinking water from his eyes. I'm still coming. Tell me more about Emma. She wants to be a firefighter, Tommy's voice wavered. But there was something new in it. Hope, maybe, or the relief of not being alone. A firefighter? Ethan grinned through the cold, forcing his legs to keep moving. Does she know how brave her big brother is? 10 yards now. Tommy's lips were tinged blue, his arms trembling. Another surge yanked the boy's body sideways. His grip slipped an inch, then another. Ethan's pulse spiked, his legs burned. 5 yards. He could see every drop clinging to Tommy's lashes, the tiny cuts on his knuckles from gripping the stop sign too hard. A wave slammed into them both, and for a heartbeat, the boy's head was gone. Ethan lunged forward, arms outstretched. I've got you, hold on. But he knew, if he missed by even a second, the current would take them both. The water was shockingly cold, colder than anything Ethan had prepared for. It wrapped around his body like icy fingers, seeping through his turnout gear, stealing the air from his lungs before he could catch his breath. The current wasn't just strong, it was relentless, shoving at him with a brute force that felt personal. Every forward motion was a negotiation with something that wanted him gone. 12 yards from Tommy now, close enough to see the boy's lips trembling, and close enough to hear the ragged grasp of each breath as he vowed to keep his chin above water. The stop signpost was liquid debris, bits of leaves, and plastic wrapping around the base. Tommy's small hands were sliding, millimeter by millimeter, towards the end. A flash of memory blindsided him. 8 years old again, the smell of chlorine in his nose, the muffled laughter of kids somewhere above, the weightless panic of sinking, kicking hard but going nowhere, the taste of pool water when it rushed into his mouth, the sensation of hands grabbing him, yanking him upward, the tiled pool deck scraping his cheek as he coughed up water, and with pride in equal measure. His mother's face was pale with fear. That was the day he promised himself. Never again. But now, pushing through churning flood water towards a child who had seconds left, Ethan understood something he'd never admitted before. Sometimes, the promises you make to protect yourself end up being the very ones that hold you back from becoming the person you're meant to be. 10 yards. Tommy, he shouted, voice hoarse from both the cold and the effort. I'm almost there. Just hang on a little longer. The boy's response was thin, swallowed by the rushing water. I can't. My hands. Ethan saw it in slow motion. Tommy's small body being pulled horizontal by the current, his arms trembling, his legs streaming out behind him like a flag in the storm. His knuckles widened, then shifted, losing precious traction. 8 yards. Ethan ditched the piece of wooden fence he'd been using for buoyancy, letting it vanish downstream. He needed both arms free. The rescue rope tied to his waist was his only connection to land. The last thin promise that he might make it back. He half swam, half lunged forward, boots scraping against submerged curbs and asphalt. Twice he tripped, catching himself just before the water could take him under. In places, it was already over his shoulders. His turnout coat drank in the flood, turning heavier by the second, dragging at him like an anchor with every stroke. 6 yards. Tommy's left hand slipped from the post. No! Ethan roared, muscle burning. He pushed harder, feeling the rope tug against his waist as it stretched under the strain. 4 yards. The boy's right hand began to slide, his arms trembling violently. 2 yards. Tommy's fingers gave away completely, his body vanishing into the water. Ethan lunged, arm cutting through the murk until his hands closed around something. Thin, cold, unmoving. Gripped tight and pulled with everything he had, feeling the water fight to take its prize back. Tommy's head broke the surface with a sputter, water pouring from his mouth and nose. His eyes were wide but glassy, unfocused. I've got you, Ethan gasped, looping his arms around the boy's chest. I've got you, Tommy. You're safe now. But they weren't safe, not even close. The current here was stronger, fed by runoff from multiple storm drains upstream. It tugged at them like a machine, steady and mechanical, each pull threatening to tear them apart. Ethan's legs cramped from the cold. His lungs burned from effort and the fear. He looked back towards the shore and his stomach dropped. They had drifted far. The rescue rope around his waist was a rigid lifeline, stretched so tight it chunked under the strain. If it snapped, help! Ethan bellowed toward the cluster of responders and civilians, now gathered on higher ground. We need help getting back. Captain Brooks was there now, her silver-streaked hair plastered to her head, flanked by 2 firefighters from Engine 19. They grabbed the rope immediately, pulling hand over hand against the force of the water. But the current wasn't giving up. If anything, it pulled harder. Tommy sagged in his arms, barely conscious. His skin was pale, lips an alarming shade of blue. His breaths came in shallow, erratic bursts. Hypothermia was winning its race. "Come on, Tommy," Ethan whispered to his ear, his own teeth chattering. "Stay with me, buddy. Think about Emma. Think about Buster. They need you to keep fighting." The rope jerked suddenly. They were moving. 15 yards from the shore. The crowd was shouting now, voices indistinct over the roar of the flood, but Ethan clung to the sound as proof they weren't alone. 10 yards. Every muscle in his arm screamed. His grip on Tommy faltered for a second, slick gloves sliding against soaked fabric. "I can't hold him," Ethan shouted, panic slicing through his voice. "I'm losing him." That's when Liam Carter appeared on the shore, having just arrived from his rescue across town. Without hesitation, he dove into the flood water, his strong strokes cutting through the current, with the confidence of someone who had never feared what water might do to him. "Hold on, brother," Liam's voice carried above the chaos as he cut through the current with strong, efficient strokes. Ethan wanted to believe him. He wanted to trust that help was only seconds away. But his grip gave way before Liam could reach them. Tommy slipped under. For an agonizing eternity, there was nothing. No boy, no friend, just the water rushing past and Ethan's own ragged breathing. Then Liam broke the surface. Tommy clutched to his chest, the boy's head lolling but still above water. They reached the rope together, and the rescuers on shore hauled all three of them in with a final desperate effort. Boots scraped asphalt, hands grabbed arms, and suddenly Ethan was on his knees on solid ground, the world still rocking beneath him. The street around them had gone silent. Residents, emergency workers, and even a couple of news crews stood still, watching. They had seen it. The rookie firefighter who couldn't swim risking everything on water he feared most. But Ethan barely noticed. His focus was locked on Tommy, lying out on the wet pavement while the paramedics worked with swift precision. Oxygen mask, chest check, pulse check. "Come on, kid," one medic muttered. "Come back to us." Seconds ticked by, and then a cough. Tommy's eyes fluttered open. Water dribbled from his lips as he turned his head towards the sound of Ethan's voice. "Ethan?" he rasped. Ethan swallowed hard, nodding. "Yeah, buddy, I'm right here." When they pulled them fully onto the sidewalk, the whole street seemed to exhale at once. The ambulance doors closed with a soft thud, taking Tommy to the hospital for observation. Through the rear window, Ethan saw him, face pressed against the glass, breath fogging the surface. For a second, the fog blurred everything, and Ethan's chest tightened. Was he fading? Then, a small hand lifted and left a perfect print on the glass, framed in the reflection of flashing red lights. A wave, or maybe a salute. Ethan sat on the bumper of NG-19, wrapped in an emergency blanket, watching the taillights disappear into the wet distance. His turnout gear lay in a soggy heap beside him, each piece heavy with river water and fear. Every muscle in his body ached, like he'd wrestled the storm itself. Captain Brooks appeared, boots splashing through the shallow water. "Hell of a thing, Reyes," she said, her voice carrying the fatigue of 100 rescues. She sat beside him. "Didn't know you could swim." "I didn't," Ethan said, the corner of his mouth twitching to something almost like a smile. "Still don't." Brooks studied him, the way only someone with 20 years of the job could. "Fear's funny. People think courage means not being afraid, but real courage," she tilted her head, "is being afraid and going anyway." "I was terrified," Ethan said quietly, "every second." "And you still went," she replied. "That's the job." Liam arrived next, hair still dripping, gear half unzipped. He dropped down on Ethan's other side without a word, their silence speaking volumes. After a beat, he said, "Paramedics told me another 2 minutes and Tommy wouldn't have made it." Ethan stared at the pavement, rain pooling in the cracks. 2 minutes. But Brooks was right. The only thing that mattered was he had been there. That night, the storm was gone, but the city wore its scars. Uprooted trees, shattered glass, streets still carrying the smell of river mud. Ethan's apartment was quiet, but it felt different, like something had shifted in its walls. He stood under the shower until the water ran cold. When he finally looked at himself, the same face stared back. But there was something new in his eyes, something he couldn't name. Dinner was just pasta and jarred sauce, eaten by the window while rain tapped a gentle rhythm against the glass. His turnout coat hung nearby, still damp, a reminder of what had happened. Tomorrow, there would be more calls, more unknowns, and maybe more water. His phone buzzed, unknown number. "Thank you for saving my son. Emma, his little sister says she wants to be a firefighter like you when she grows up." Tommy's mom. Ethan smiled. His thumbs hovered before he typed. "Tell Emma the bravest firefighters are the ones who scared but show up anyway." Outside, the rain continued, but now it didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like applause. And the next morning, Captain Brooks found a note on her desk. "Request to enroll in department swimming lessons. Ethan Reyes." She approved it without hesitation, because everyday heroes aren't born fearless. They are made in the moments when fear meets purpose. Because everyday heroes aren't born fearless. They are made in the moments when fear meets purpose and chooses to step aside. Everyday heroes are all around us.